Let's turn in our prayer books to page 10. Page 10. Number 1 on our hit parade, Hine Matov. Hine Matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. 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 Let's call up Norma to lead us in our candle blessings. Page 2. Sharon, too. Got her. Use that little one. It's easier. Yeah. Amen.
Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who howls a mitzvah, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Amen. We've been lighting this third candle since October 7th for the hostages in Israel. And our hopes are that this would be the last week, but of course it's not. 537 days now. Men and women have been held hostage, children have been held hostage in Israel, in Gaza, by Hamas. And our hopes are that our prayer, Baruch atah Adonai matir asurim, blessed is God, who redeems the captives, will happen this week. Let's turn in the back of our prayer book to page 374, and I invite you to rise for Hatikvah. Page 374. Kol od balevav penima, nefesh Yehudi homia, ufate mizrach kadima, ayin letzion Sophia. Od lo avda tikvatenu, ma tikva bat shnot alpayim, liyotam chofshi be'artzenu, eretz Tzion v'Yerushalayim. Liyotam chofshi be'artzenu, eretz Tzion v'Yerushalayim. You may be seated. Let's turn back in our prayer book to page 6. And we read at the bottom of the page responsively. May the door of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship. May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity. May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness. Let us turn now in our prayer books to page 20 and 21 as we sing together Lecha Dodi. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabla. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Shahamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Hishmianu el hameyuchad, Adonai echad, Ushemo echad, L'shemo tiferet v'lit hilah. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, Ki imekor habraha, Mirosh mikedem nesucha, Sof ma'aseh b'machshavat hilah. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Verse 5. Hitoreri, Ki va'oreh Kumeuri, Uri, Shir daberi, Kavod Adonai alayich nigla. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Please rise and face the door we entered through. We're looking for the Shabbat bride here. Boi v'shalom ateret ba'ala, Gam b'simcha uve'tzahala, Toch emunei am segula, Boi chala. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. You may turn to the people around you. Wish each other a good Shabbos. Hey, Yogi. ¿Qué pasó? You okay? Right. Right.
She's gonna be work
Okay.
today.
Yeah.
May 24 she was in a cheerleader
Uh, yeah. Oh.
and take out
Uh-huh. Okay.
doctor.
Good.
You stay at home for
Okay.
rest.
All right.
Maybe she gonna be work this week
Right.
because it's lost.
You need the money. Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so any simchas, happy moments, blessings. I know there's one in the back room. Michael and Sarah. What's today?
We've been married for 17 years.
Mazel tov. Now that's dedication. Shows up on their anniversary to run tech for Temple Sinai. Thank you. Any other simchas, happy moments? Yes. Matthew got a job. Fantastic. Yay, Matthew. Jim?
My birthday was March 4th, and I'm 73.
Wow. And?
We had an unwanted visitor. Mama possum and a baby. We got them out of
They've been evicted. Evicted safely. Okay. Yes, Ruth. Awesome. Oh, wonderful. Art. Wow. Mazel tov. You got a raise. Tony? What? Wow. Fantastic. Wow. Other simchas, happy moments. This is what makes community. Tommy. 2 weeks in a row. I don't know that my heart can take it. Your parents are smiling on you. Any other simchas? Well, good day. Lots of things to share. So our service tonight is going to be a little different than normal. We're going to go through the whole service and then we're going to invite our guest up to speak. So let's continue. Page 28. Page 28. Please rise as able for Baruch Hu. Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach. HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. HaMevorach, HaMevorach, le'olam va'ed. Page 30. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chokhma pateach sha'arim, uvidvuna meshana itim, ומחליף את הזמנים, ומסדר את הכוכבים במשמרותיהם ברקיע כרצונו. בורא יום ולילה, גולל אור מפני חושך, וחושך מפני אור, ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו. אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, המעריב ערבים. On the bottom of page 33, let's read together. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol, all these things your Torah gives to us. And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kevod Mahuto, Leolam Va'ed. You may be seated. Page 36. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'vetecha uvlechtecha b'derech uv'shachbeha v'kumecha ukshartam leot al yadeha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha uktavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkaru vasitem et kol mitzvotai vitem gadoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lahem lelohim ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem emet. On page 39, let's read responsively. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Mi hamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osefele, nora tehilot osefele. Tefele Malchutecha Rauvanecha Bokei Ayam Lifnei Moshe Miriam Zeli Anu V'Yameru Adonai Yimloch Adonai Yimloch Leolam Vaed V'nemar Kifad Adonai et Yaakov Ugialo me'ad azak mimenu Baruch atah Adonai Gaal Yisrael. Top of page 43. Together. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, hapodes sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. Let us continue now on page 46. We're going to call up Max Sachs to lead us in our service. Page 46. Please rise as able for tefillah.
Adonai Sephatai Tifta Ufi Yagi Tehilateha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah
Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avoteinu
V'Imotenu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzhak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Ha'gadol Ha'gibor V'Hanara Elyon Gomel Hasadim Tovim V'Konei Hakol V'Zoher Ha'Te'avovim Ma'ot U'Mevigula V'Nevenehem Leman Shemo B'Yahava Melech Gozer Moshe U'Magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham V'Ezrat Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechaye HaKol Rav Loshia Moshe Ruah U'Morid HaGashem Mekalkel Hayim Behesed Mechaye HaKol Berachamim Ramim Somek Noflim V'Rofecholim U'Matzir Rasurim U'Mechaye Emunato Lishanei Yafa Michamo Habal Gevuro U'Midom Elah Melech Meli U'Mechaye U'Matzir Yeshua V'Ne'eman Tan Hayom Hakol Baruch atah Adonai Mechaye HaKol Atah Kadosh V'Shimcha Kadosh U'Kadoshim B'Chol Yom Baruch HaSelah Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh.
And let us all say amen. You may be seated. Top of page 55. Let's read together. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. So let's take some time now for our own private reflection. Let's use our time wisely and individually connect with the Holy and Blessed One in our own way, on our own time. Please pray silently. Page 60. Shalom Rahav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rahav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov be'enecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol et u'v'chol sha'ah b'shlomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. We now take some time to connect with our spirit and the spirits of those who could not be with us here today. Those who are fighting illness, oppression, whose lives are made hard by factors beyond their control. Those who we carry with us on a daily basis and hope that their path gets smoother in life. This week we call out Joan Adler, Bill Ellis, Stuart Levin, and Lee Forrest, Aaron Kugler, Alan Levin, Karen Ellis, Judith Levy, David Belkin, Gary Haberkorn, Halm. And we add to those names the names we carry with us. And if there's anyone in your life that you would like to lift up, please call them out. Page 253. Let's read together in the English at the top of the page. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are ill. May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit. And let us say, Amen. May the Holy and Blessed One hear our prayers and bring to those that we've named out loud and in our hearts blessings of wholeness, of peace, of health. Amen. We're going to continue now on page 283 with Aleinu. Please rise as able. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שהוא שם חלקנו לייחד את שמו, וגור עלינו להמליך מלכותו, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. שהוא נוטה שמיים ויסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגבי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, עמד מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו echad. May be seated. On page 291. There are stars up above, so far away we only see their light, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us in the days. These are the ways we remember. Our thoughts turn now to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and our neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race, every nation and faith, whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, let us continue to meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. This week we continue to mark the Shaloshim, the first month of passing for Ethel Grudin, wife of Alan Grudin. Cynthia Sines, the mother of Dakota Gigot. And Maxine Bennett, the mother of Dan Bennett. We also mark the anniversaries of the deaths of Alan Cookson, husband of Elizabeth Cookson, Shirley K. Levin, mother of Stuart Levin and the grandmother of Jason Levin, Anna Berman, mother of Sue Abramson, Barbara Lee Adler, the daughter of Joan Adler, Leo Marmelstein, father of Spencer Marmelstein, Albert Davis, the husband of Ruth Davis, Mario Huerta, the father of Jessica Hernandez, Leonora Abulafia, grandmother of Dora Lipper, Natalie Skalka, the aunt of Michael Skalka, Jack Weiss, grandfather of Diane Adler and husband of Lenore Adler, and Gerald R. Siegel, father of Ellen Heller. And if you have any names of those whom you are remembering this Shabbat, please call them out. For all of them we say, Zichronam Levracha, may their memories be forever blessings. As we turn together to page 294 and rise as a community for the Kaddish. Yet Gadal v'yet Kadash Shemei Rabbah B'alama Divarach Yerute v'yamlech Malchute B'chayechon v'yomechon V'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agalav izman kariv imaru amen. Yehe shemei rabba mevarach le'olam olomei olamaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal, shemei dekudesha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechemata, Da'amiran be'alama v'imaru, amen. Yehe shalama rabba min shamaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and bring comfort to those who are bereaved among us. Amen. You may be seated. So, we're in this period of time leading up to Passover. And during this period of time, I'm kind of digging through lots of text, trying to prepare what I hope to be an enjoyable Seder, a story about our own bondage and movement to freedom. And tonight, as we were kind of going through the text, I came across, there's a reading in here which we didn't do, which we do a lot of the time, and I just want to share it as a starting point for our conversation I hope to have tonight. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before we ever stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, and that there is a better place, a promised land, and that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, and that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. There's so much truth in that one reading as we face the world around us. The future cannot be found by one or two or three or four people. It has to be found by all of us, joining hands together, working towards a common purpose, a shared vision, a collective goal. A few months ago, I got a phone call one afternoon. I think I was not in the building. Michelle Danmiller called me. I think I forget what I was doing, but she said, Maida and I were having a conversation. I knew I was in trouble at that point, okay? So we want to do something. We don't like what's happening in the world. We want to start a conversation about how we can make it better. And Maida and Michelle put their amazing connections and minds together and made a connection to our speaker tonight. And so with that, I'm going to invite Maida up to introduce our speaker.
Our speaker tonight comes to us from the ACLU of Texas. Edgar Saldivar is a senior staff attorney who represents the ACLU clients in high-impact litigation in federal and state courts across Texas. His practice focuses on voting rights, immigrants' rights, and free speech. Prior to the ACLU, Edgar handled complex business disputes in the private sector. After an accomplished career, including the recognition as one of Houston's 40 under 40, that's a long time ago, by the Houston Business Journal, Edgar pursued the good fight, seeking justice and equality and defending the civil and human rights of all people in Texas. In his first year as a civil rights lawyer, he attained record-breaking settlements against the U.S. government that resulted in changes to immigration enforcement policies at the border. Since then, Edgar has appeared as counsel in the U.S. Supreme Court, including in Trump v. New York. A landmark case successfully blocked attempts to exclude non-citizens from the census. In Brackeen versus Holland, a landmark victory for tribal sovereignty that upheld the constitutionality of the Indian Child Welfare Act against challenges by the Texas Attorney General. Edgar currently leads trial teams fighting voter suppression in Texas, notably the historic challenge to Senate Bill 1, a pivotal voter suppression law passed in 2021. In November 2020, he successfully represented voting rights organizations against efforts to void over 126,000 drive-through votes. You remember those drive-through votes? I loved them. Cast in Harris County, Texas, the third largest county in the United States. He also serves on the statewide nonpartisan Election Protection Coalition. Born and raised in Texas, Edgar is the son of Mexican immigrants. Hustling through poverty and first-gen challenges, he graduated cum laude from Harvard University with a BA in philosophy. He holds a JD from the University of Houston Law Center and completed postgraduate studies in psychology and French at Rice. He's also an avid baseball fan. I know because he and my husband shared a lot about baseball. And I give you Edgar Saldivar.
Thank you, Maida. Thank you so much. First, thank you for that very kind introduction. Tonight I'm going to reflect on the current state of civil rights in Texas, and I'm going to highlight some of the work of the ACLU of Texas to address some of the current threats that we face in our political climate. Hoping to also speak to what it means for us and what we could potentially do ourselves. But first, I want to express my sincere gratitude to Rabbi Lipper for the honor of allowing me to speak to your congregation tonight. And of course, I want to thank Maida Osofsky for her long time and continued support of the ACLU and of Texas specifically and its people. Maida and her late husband, Paul, were founding board members of the ACLU of Texas. And they were some of the first people that welcomed me to the ACLU of Texas when I left the private sector to fight the good fight almost 10 years ago. But Paul was more than that. He was a friend, mentor, and as Maida noted, a fellow baseball fan. Perhaps it's because we saw a lot of each other, a lot of ourselves in each other, that I believe we had this special connection. Although Paul was born in Brooklyn and grew up in the Bronx, my life journey started in Pasadena, Texas, where my parents settled after leaving Mexico for greater opportunity. Less than 10 years removed from the civil rights movement, I grew up at a time when America was adjusting to what it meant to be a pluralistic, multicultural society. My hometown also happened to be the site of the state headquarters of the KKK, which met just a few blocks from where I lived, close to a stop and go where I used to play arcade games. Racial tensions were palpable from the schoolyards to the Little League fields. Confederate flags around my hometown signaled that we didn't belong. And a curious boy with an appetite for knowledge, I wanted to make sense of my own place in America, what it meant. Drawn to stories of the civil rights movement, I became fascinated with figures like Martin Luther King Jr. and Jackie Robinson. Connecting with the ideals of equality, freedom, and justice, I identified with the Black freedom struggle. At a time when hip-hop music was burgeoning, the stories of marginalized urban Black youth expressing their discontent with society became an alternative form of education. In high school, I read A People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn, which told a version of our history from the standpoint of the oppressed and marginalized. And the stories of the United Farm Workers, which captivated me because my own mother was a migrant farm worker. Education became a means of self-empowerment, an escape from poverty. Like my friend Paul Osofsky, with grit and determination, I eventually made it to Harvard. Although Paul attended law school in the 60s at Harvard, and I attended the college in the 90s, we shared a quiet bond of enduring formative years in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and succeeding at one of America's elite institutions with all the hustle that children of immigrants bring when we're given a shot. Inspired by the civil rights heroes, I pursued a law degree at the University of Houston Law Center, where Paul also served as a distinguished faculty member. And like Paul, I honed my skills in the private sector. But in 2014, I saw images in the news of unaccompanied minor children who were crossing the southern border and being detained by immigration agents. Seeing the faces of kids in cages who looked like my own children created a visceral discomfort while I enjoyed a cozy lifestyle serving Houston's business community. Then I saw a posting at the ACLU of Texas and jumped at the opportunity to serve the public sector and the public interest with a historic civil rights organization like that one. The ACLU was established in 1920 during a time of significant civil rights challenges, including the Palmer raids of 1919 to 1920, when the U.S. Department of Justice targeted thousands of people, mostly Italian immigrants and Eastern European Jewish immigrants who were alleged to be leftists. And they arrested them without warrants in violation of constitutional protections. Our Constitution protects our rights through key provisions in the Bill of Rights. The First Amendment guarantees freedoms related to speech, press, religion, assembly, what we're doing right now, and petitioning the government for redress of grievances. These protections safeguard individual expression and belief systems from government interference. The Fifth Amendment's Due Process Clause ensures impartial treatment in court proceedings. And the Fourth Amendment's Equal Protection Clause mandates that no state shall, quote, deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. Our Bill of Rights collectively form a robust framework for protecting equality and individual freedom. For over 100 years, the ACLU has been involved in numerous landmark cases, some of which you may recall from the history books, including the Scopes Monkey Trial, 1925, where we opposed a law against teaching evolution in Tennessee schools. Brown versus the Board of Education, 1954, where we joined the NAACP in a landmark case that declared racially segregated schools unconstitutional. And Tinker v. Des Moines, 1969, when the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that students wearing black armbands to protest the Vietnam War was protected speech. Working for the ACLU was a dream that became a reality for me in 2016. The ACLU of Texas, headquartered here in Houston, is an affiliate of the national ACLU. We've been fighting for the rights of all Texans since 1938, when we represented Mexican-American pecan shellers in San Antonio, mostly women, in their attempts to protest inhumane working conditions and simply protest and march. They were met with brutal repression from state authorities, so the ACLU came in to defend them. Since then, the ACLU of Texas has fought and continues to fight some of the most pivotal civil rights issues in our state and nation. We work with communities at the state capitol and in the courts to protect and advance civil rights and civil liberties for every Texan, no exceptions. Importantly, as a nonprofit organization serving the public interest, the ACLU is proudly and rigidly nonpartisan, having worked with and challenged 19 different U.S. presidential administrations, regardless of political affiliation. Upon my arrival at the ACLU, I was handed a docket that included federal cases to protect immigrants against abuses by federal agents at the border, as well as cases against school districts who discriminated against transgender kids. In my first immigrants' rights case, Border Patrol agents egregiously violated the Fourth Amendment rights of a client, a border resident returning from a shopping trip across the border. Agents erroneously suspected she was carrying drugs and engaged in unconsented searches. After initial pat-downs revealed nothing, she was forced to undergo a secondary inspection, where another agent invasively searched her body to no avail. Denying any contraband and continuing to refuse consent to searches, she was taken against her will to a hospital where Border Patrol agents pressured medical professionals and staff to do even more invasive searches of our client's body. Her dehumanizing experience was so traumatic, she felt the victim of a sexual assault. To make matters worse, the hospital sent our client a bill for the unconsented searches. After we sued both the federal government and the hospital, the parties settled, but the emotional damage was irreversible. Subsequently, I led a murder case against Border Patrol agent who shot and killed at point-blank range a 20-year-old migrant who had just crossed the river in the Laredo area and hid in a brush of a residential lot. Claudia Gomez left Guatemala with a dream of a better life. One of her last text messages to her mom right before crossing the river, she let her know she would cross the following morning. She let her know that she would follow up, and she let her know she loved her. The last message she texted was to her fiancé in the United States, saying she couldn't wait to see him. But she never followed up. As the agent approached the corner of the lot where she hid, Claudia stood up to run away from the agent, and he shot her in the back of the head. Cell phone video from a neighbor who heard the shot captured Claudia's last moments as she lay bleeding on the ground. The government agreed to settle before we could even depose the agent. The first Trump administration pursued inhumane policies and abusive practices explicitly as a means to deter migration. People coming to our shores are socio and economically marginalized in their own home countries and move out of desperation. In 2018, we got an injunction stopping the federal government's family separation policy, which forcibly ripped children from the arms of their parents as they were being processed by immigration agents. Not knowing the whereabouts of their children, fathers broke down in tears when we interviewed them in detention centers. Those were some of the hardest interviews I've ever done in my career. While our lawsuit reunited many families in the last 6 years, we're continuing to monitor the slow progress on the remaining families, as about 1,000 children have yet to be reunited with their parents. As any mom or dad or any medical association will tell you, every day that a child is not with their parent, it causes irreparable harm. The first Trump administration tested our team's ability to fight. We are battle tested, and it felt that we've been through nonstop attacks on our civil rights. In Texas, though, those attacks were amplified by the state government, which pushed to enlist the state and local police to collaborate with the federal government on immigration enforcement, leading to the racial profiling of people merely suspected of being undocumented in interactions with police, where the darker the skin color, the greater the suspicion of criminality. And it's not just immigrants who have been targeted. Both the state and federal governments have been relentless in their efforts to erase trans people from public life. Voter suppression laws like SB 1 threaten our access to the ballot. Our team challenged the law in federal court and after a 6-week trial against the state, we won on all claims that we brought, including one based on a law from the Reconstruction era, when voter suppression tactics were used on formerly enslaved black people who could now vote under the 15th Amendment. So where are we now under a second Trump administration? Well, just 2 Saturdays ago, our national team led by Lee Gallant in New York City filed a motion in federal court a little after 2 a.m. requesting the court to review the U.S. government's actions relating to the deportation under cover of night of Venezuelans alleged to be gang members on the mere basis of tattoos. The president invoked the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to deport these individuals to a prison in El Salvador notorious for human rights violations. In this law, Congress gave the president serious authority to deport immigrants, but limited the authority to when there's a declared war with another country or another country is invading. All indications are that the federal government defied court orders. But the bigger question this raises is, can the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 now be used on immigrants? This law has only been used 3 times in our nation's history, all during declared wars. The War of 1812, World War I, and World War II. The minute we start invoking wartime authorities during peacetime, we're on a slippery slope to a constitutional crisis and a very dangerous place. This same month, March, our colleagues at the ACLU New Mexico reported that ICE arrested 48 suspected immigrants, and their whereabouts are currently unknown. ACLU lawyer Rebecca Sheff said, "We don't have anybody," and that's exactly the concern, that they've been effectively disappeared. We have yet to learn any of their identities or whereabouts or the authorities under which they were held or conditions of their detention. We don't know if they've already been deported, she said. Rebecca continued, "I used to work internationally, and we would encounter routine circumstances where people were picked up and effectively disappeared. Held incommunicado, mistreated, made unavailable. Families didn't know where they were. To be in a situation now where the appropriate word for what is happening is effectively disappearances should give everyone pause," she said. And let us be clear. The government's tactics of attacking and dehumanizing immigrants and other vulnerable groups precisely follow the authoritarian playbook. These tactics create false narratives and use inflammatory dog whistle rhetoric, like references to invasion and enemies, designed to create fear, division, and a sense of crisis by portraying immigrants as threats while undermining our basic rights in a free society. At a time of reflection, like this moment, I am reminded of what Socrates once said: "The unexamined life is not worth living," which to me is a reminder that in our journeys, we have to take moments to reflect on where we are, who we are, and what we're doing, to appreciate the preciousness of every moment we experience. But before he said that, Socrates said, "Know thyself." And I believe he meant that at the very least, we should know we're all human. Who we are is a reflection of our values. It's reflected in what we choose to hold dearest. Philosophers say that our ability to make choices freely and autonomously gives us inherent dignity, unconditional moral worth, and infinite value. We choose who we want to be, whom to love, how to live, And to deny our self-determination is to deny our humanity. No doubt our hearts are pierced by the raw vulnerability of people suffering. Razor wires and chain link cages cannot deter a flight from death. Reflecting on my own values, respect for our shared humanity is non-negotiable. From Amarillo to Brownsville and Beaumont to El Paso, the ACLU of Texas believes in a Texas that works for all of us. A Texas where each person has an equal say in the decisions that shape our future so that we can all have a better life. Since January, our nationwide organization has filed 28 lawsuits against the Trump administration. But we will not fulfill the promise of our democracy merely in the courts. It will take we, the people, coming together among our communities, building bridges to achieve a more perfect union. We are together on this journey at this pivotal moment, not by mere chance. They say fighters are guided by great feelings of love. As perennial as Gulf Mully grass, love is the force that binds our collective humanity and our cause for democracy. The relentless forces of opposition may bend us, but we will not break. But the ACLU cannot do it alone. We depend on the generosity of donors because in times like this, we become the people's real Department of Justice. We draw from the collective support and wisdom of our communities to push for a world where every voice finds its melody in the harmonized symphony of our shared future. I will end with a reflection on the mutual love for baseball that Paul Osofsky and I shared. A prominent tax attorney, Paul negotiated the sale of the New York Mets after they won the 1986 World Series. And for me, as a huge baseball fan, that made Paul super cool. At board meetings, we talked about our beloved Houston Astros, who we each followed. From the losing years to the golden age of Houston baseball. Though Paul started off as a New York Giants fan, growing up in Brooklyn. So in the middle of opening day weekend, yesterday was opening day, I thought it was fitting to end with a couple quotes in Paul's honor. Every strike brings me closer to the next home run, Babe Ruth. Keep swinging, Hank Aaron. Thank you. And yeah.
So we do have some time for some questions. If anyone wants to ask a question, let me do it on the microphone so it gets into the live feed. Just raise your hand.
Happy to answer any questions about the work we do or any questions that may concern you about what you see. Yes.
We talked about this a little bit at dinner, but I think a lot of us are wondering what we as individuals should be doing at this point.
That's a great question. I think at this point, what would be most impactful and what we at the ACLU have been working towards since January is making sure that everyone knows their rights. And it starts in our own communities with the people around us. In order for us to know the limits of what the government can do to push back on our individual rights, we got to know what our basic rights are. And that Bill of Rights is a framework to start with. We at the ACLU have been putting on Know Your Rights presentations since January because people have been asking, what do I do if ICE comes to schools? Education leaders have reached out for questions about what kind of protections they can offer students. Faith leaders have reached out to see what kind of protections they can provide their congregants. I think it starts with public education about our basic human rights and our basic civil rights. So continuing to talk among our communities, building bridges with other communities, and finding ways to connect. Because I think that we all, at the very end, share a common belief and respect for humanity. And I think that's where it starts. Our laws, our Bill of Rights, in order to protect human freedom and individual liberties, they arose from principles of humanity. At the very end, it's about respecting everyone's ability to live a dignified life in America. And so I think it starts with that common knowledge, and then finding ways to connect with other people, because I think at the end of the day, it is our communities where we're going to make the greatest impact.
Just a general question about how is the solvency, the funding of the ACLU, let's say in Texas and so forth, how much support financial, how are they doing?
So in Texas, we have a team. First of all, it's a team that doesn't just do litigation. We do advocacy in the legislature. We have a communications team. So we are an organization with different tools in our toolkit to put out public information about our basic rights, accessing public networks like social media, but also we're not that big. Our legal team, where I serve as a senior staff attorney, goes toe-to-toe against the federal government, goes toe-to-toe against the state government. I mentioned the voting rights case that we had in San Antonio federal court, where we took the state to trial, but we're a team of about 10 lawyers. We're on the verge of getting maybe a couple more fellows to help our capacity. But the state government has hundreds of lawyers. The federal government has thousands of lawyers at its disposal. The ACLU is almost like a federated organization. We have a national office that provides sort of expertise in certain issue areas. But at the state level, we're individual affiliates that are separate nonprofit organizations that depend on funding from the public, from individuals who are able to donate, from foundations, but essentially people who care that we have civil rights to protect our democracy. We're always in need of greater capacity to do this work. I've only mentioned some highlights of the cases that we do, but we work on voting rights, immigrants' rights, LGBTQ rights, reproductive rights, and free speech. Free speech is our bread and butter. And these issue areas, we need more lawyers on them. We need more fighters in the fight. And I think that's where we could help. We could benefit from help in our communities. Yes.
Did the ACLU of Houston or Texas get involved in SB 1 or 2 with the Ten Commandments in school classrooms?
Yes, we're involved in that. Right now that is being pushed in the legislature. That is ongoing at this time. And we're trying to push to stop that because it infringes on the First Amendment rights of many students. And so it's an attempt by the state to indoctrinate children with Bible studies, which we think goes against our principles of democracy and separation of church and state in America. So yeah, we are in that fight, and if they push that through, we're going to be prepared to litigate that and take them to court. Yes. It has not passed, but it's, they're pushing hard for it. They've got the votes. they've got the influence, and you know, it's going to be a tough fight.
So what happens when you have an administration that doesn't believe, I'm over here,
Okay.
an administration that doesn't believe in the rule of law and thumbs their nose at due process? What happens when they just don't care what the courts say and they just do what they want anyways? What's the next process?
I mean, we saw a little bit of that with that issue with the deportees to El Salvador, right? Where they sort of thumbed their nose at the court's order and went ahead and deported these individuals to this dangerous prison. What it means is that we're going to have to continue taking them to court, and that judges in the district court level and in the appellate levels have the courage to stick to their promise to defend and protect the Constitution that all of us lawyers take. And as long as the courts can hold on, we're going to keep pushing, even if the administration doesn't believe in it. I think that this is where our voices become very powerful. We need to ensure that that there is a balance of powers, that the courts do have an ability to stop something that is unconstitutional. Because once we get to the point where challenges to our Constitution become the norm, then we're going into a slippery slope to a constitutional crisis. But at this time, you know, we've got judges still holding strong and saying, you can't do this. This is completely illegal or unconstitutional. And I hope we can keep doing that, and we're going to keep bringing them to court if they do.
One more question.
Mm-hmm.
Over here.
So I won't say my second question. Okay. Apparently, I just heard on the news today that Fort Bend County School District is going to be possibly implementing the Blue Bonnet curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that you all can do about that?
Yeah, we're fighting
The Blue
that.
Bonnet curriculum, which is a Christian-based curriculum, and it's supposed to be actually a very poor curriculum that is Fort Bend County is considering implementing, and they get money from the state Board of Education if they implement it.
Yeah, this is part of an effort by the state to incentivize public schools to implement a Bible curriculum in their schools with the promise of funding. And so many schools, not just Fort Bend County, but many schools in Texas are pursuing that route for budgetary or other reasons. But it's problematic, and we're continuing to monitor that at the legislature and also in its implementation in public schools. This is something that not just the ACLU of Texas is monitoring, but our national office is monitoring. And let me be clear, some of the worst civil rights abuses and challenges to laws happen in Texas, and the dangers that they get tested here, and if successful, other states replicate them. There's always a competition between, it seems, certain states trying to see who makes the most challenging laws to our civil rights. And so we're going to keep monitoring the Blue Bonnet curriculum. It's something that obviously has a lot of First Amendment concerns.
Well, thank you very much, Edgar. This was terrific. Thank you for giving up your
Thank you.
time and coming out and joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, Rabbi. Really an honor. Thank you.
So before we break, Tony has some things to share.
Thank you, Rabbi. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Hey, everybody in TV land. Welcome to our members, our guests, and our virtual congregants. We hope that your participation in this Shabbat has been meaningful. Okay, a couple of upcoming events that may be of interest to you. One, please register to vote for the World Zionist Congress elections, which began on March 10th. You can register at urj.org. The future of the Reformed Judaism in Israel is at stake, and we are being encouraged to cast our votes for the Reform Coalition. Please join us on Friday, April 4th for our pre-Passover Pizza Palooza dinner, starting at 6 p.m., followed by TGIS Shabbat services. The Caring Committee will be sponsoring a fabulous oneg following services. Fuzzy's Pizza is holding an event called Hatzmetz for a Cause on Thursday, April 10th at 7 p.m. 18% of the proceeds that day will be donated to the Holocaust Museum of Houston. And the Temple Sinai Second Night Seder is Sunday, April 13th at 5 p.m. You must RSVP by this Friday, April 4th. And as your treasurer, remind you to sign up for 100X. It's free. All thing you have to do is click. Click, click, click. Do reviews. It's really easy. The QR code's out here. Our goal is $4,500. The max we can get is 10 grand. I think we can get 10 grand. We raised 4,500 last year without anybody knowing about that we were doing this. So I think we can get to 10 grand easily. So if you haven't already registered and started clicking, grab a flyer out front and register and start clicking. Thank you, Rabbi.
Every time you do a survey, you earn the temple $1.60. Every person can do up to 75 surveys, and that earns the temple $120, and it doesn't come out of your pocket. It comes from this organization who's paying us to do the surveys. So please, sit at your... You can do it on your... You can do it on your phone, Peter. You don't need a computer. All right? You can do it on a computer if you don't want to use your phone. But please sign up. And I encourage you to do so. Let's end with a song on page 300 and let's see, 300 and where'd it go? I have to find it. Oh, Jehovah Shalom Aleinu. I know. Let's end on page 338. Page 338 in the middle of the page. Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, 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 Am Yisrael Chai. Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu Chai. Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Od Avinu Chai. Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu Chai. Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Od Avinu Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael 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 Chai. Thank you again to Edgar for presenting a beautiful view of the ACLU and the work that we can all be involved in. And let's gather in the lobby for Kiddush.